You guys, what probably seemed like the inevitable at one point in this NBA season has ultimately come true over the course of the last couple of days, as the Atlanta Hawks, a team that started off this NBA season with a 14-20 record, is on their way right now to the Eastern Conference Finals, which again is something I can very confidently say that not a single person in the entire NBA world saw coming. But another fact of the matter that seemed ultimately inevitable was the 76ers actually blowing this series against Atlanta, and ultimately the entire NBA world watched the process end right in front of our very eyes. Now again, I know nothing crazy has happened, they haven't blown this team up yet, as I am making this video one day after the Sixers lost Game 7, but if I was a betting man, I would probably put a lot of money on the fact that I don't believe Ben Simmons will be on this Philadelphia 76ers team come the start of next season. And a list of potential trade options for this man in the Philadelphia 76ers is ultimately what we are going to be getting into in today's video. However, you guys, before we actually jump into this, I'm going to stop the video right now for any of you newcomers and give you 5 seconds to go down below and subscribe. For anyone watching that has not done so already, believe me, you are not going to regret hitting this button, as we are coming out with brand new NBA content around here on a daily basis, covering pretty much any NBA topic you can possibly think of. So for any of you guys that do this for me, thank you so much. But let's not waste any more time and let's get into this video. Now, before we actually jump into any of these trade situations, I just want to make it clear that you guys watching should take these trade scenarios with a grain of salt, as I think it's pretty safe to say that Ben Simmons' current trade value is at a point that not a single NBA analyst or fan can accurately predict. And with this in mind, some of these trade scenarios that I'm going to be reading off for you guys might seem all over the place, so again, please take it as it is. And ultimately, give me your feedback in the comments down below as well. You guys, the first major trade scenario I have seen revolving around Ben Simmons includes sending him to the San Antonio Spurs in exchange for DeMar DeRozan. Now, also, with all of these trade scenarios that I'm going to be listing off to you guys, again, I know there are going to be more players and picks thrown into these trades as well, but what I'm going to be doing in this situation is just covering the bulk of the trade, which in this case scenario would be what I just mentioned. However, with this scenario, I honestly think this trade would make a lot of sense for both of the teams involved. Again, feel free to disagree with me in the comments, but the San Antonio Spurs are one of those teams that has been stuck in the middle over the course of the last couple of years, and a change in scenery for Ben Simmons and the entire Spurs roster in general would be a great thing. And also, with throwing DeMar DeRozan into this Philadelphia 76ers team, I feel like it would be a weird mesh of players at first, but they would definitely get used to it and get it down pat. And I do know that some people will probably bring up the fact that the 76ers would downgrade in terms of playmaking ability by switching out DeMar for Ben Simmons, but what was very surprising to me after doing some basic research was that DeMar DeRozan actually averaged 7 assists this year for the San Antonio Spurs, which I know he is not the playmaker that Ben Simmons is, but this was still very surprising. All in all, this is the first scenario that I wanted to list off to you guys. Second, we have another very interesting situation on our hands, and that would be sending Ben Simmons to the Utah Jazz in exchange for Mike Conley. Now, I know that some Jazz and Sixers fans are currently in the process of rewinding this video to make sure they heard what I said correctly, but in all honesty, I was not that surprised when I saw this trade scenario myself, as it is rather obvious that these are two teams that were the respective 1 seeds in their conferences this year and both fell short in the second round of the playoffs. And I'm not saying a change to this degree for the Utah Jazz is necessary by any means, but I guess we should not rule it out in terms of looking to see what they will do this offseason, because when we do look at the situation of the Utah Jazz, Mike Conley was actually the 4th highest scorer on this entire roster this season, and honestly, when thinking about it at a quick glance, this would be a great position for Ben Simmons to be thrown into to sort of resurrect his career, as he really wouldn't be looked at as the second option on this team, with besides Donovan Mitchell, players 2 through 5 on this roster are very equal in terms of their averages. And on top of this, the Philadelphia 76ers get a very solid player in Mike Conley, who I really feel like they're trying to just get anybody else besides Ben Simmons to start the next season. So it might be a win-win in your guys' eyes, take it as you will, it's just a scenario that's out there on the internet. Next up, I might be throwing a major curveball at some of you with this scenario, but it was too good to ignore and I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. But it is actually trading Ben Simmons to the Portland Trail Blazers in exchange for CJ McCollum. Now, I know this may not seem like the most ideal trade for either team right off the bat when you hear it, but when looking at this from the situation situation of the Philadelphia 76ers, obviously they would still have to fill in their point guard position on this team, but CJ McCollum would just add another scoring threat to this team alongside Tobias and Joel that could really be a triple-headed monster going into next season. As well, for the Portland Trailblazers, I know you obviously cannot pair up Ben Simmons and Damian Lillard in the backcourt together, but having the possibility of running Ben Simmons on the front court on this Portland Trailblazers team is something that, when I'm thinking about it, I would absolutely love to see as an NBA fan. I know there are a lot of question marks around that probably when you originally think of it, but hey, at this point, we're just trying to get anything out of Ben Simmons while he is still young. Again, I know that came out of left field and you guys probably have not heard that yet, but I want to hear what you have to think about it in the comments. And last but not least, you guys, we have a trade scenario that I have probably heard more than any other situation since last night's game, and this is in fact trading Ben Simmons to the Houston Rockets in exchange for John Wall. Now, if you want to talk about a Ben Simmons trade that makes the most sense for both teams in the transaction, I think this one hits home for being the most fair for both sides of the deal. As for the Philadelphia 76ers, you are bringing in a man who just came off a year averaging 20.5, 3 and 7 a game for a tanking team, I know. Nonetheless, I really do feel like John Wall is a lot better than many people were giving him credit for prior to the beginning of last season. And then when you look at the situation of the Houston Rockets, literally what do you have to lose if you are that organization? I don't think they have a plan in mind to build a powerhouse around John Wall in Houston anytime soon, and it was very clear and adamant after this season when they traded James Harden and slipped into a tanking mindset that they were in this process for the long haul. And if you are Houston, why not experiment a little bit and bring in this man that can lead your offense and maybe resurrect his career to what we all thought it was going to be at some point? Because let's be real, even with all of the Ben Simmons slander that we have seen over the course of these playoffs, we do need to also remember that this man is a 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-Defensive Player, and was also the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year this season. Like, yes, it is obvious that this situation with Ben Simmons in Philadelphia is not working out to the potential that everybody thought it would. Don't get me wrong, I am aware that Ben Simmons' trade value is at an all-time low throughout his career. However, I do feel like most of the NBA world is overreacting just a tad when looking at his value. But yeah, you guys, these were just the top 4 trade scenarios that I've been seeing all over the internet, and I want to hear what you guys have to think about these 4, and on top of that, any other trade scenarios that might have come to mind while watching this. Because you guys know by now that I read every single comment, and I really can't get enough of reading your guys' feedback. But if you guys did enjoy the video, again, don't forget to leave a like on it down below and subscribe while you're down there. I can't say it enough, you guys. Brand new NBA videos every single week around here. The support on the channel has been crazy, and I truly cannot thank you guys enough for this. But on that note, I also did just want to say one more time thank you to each and every one of you for watching. I appreciate y'all more than anything in the world. You all know this, and I will see you guys in the next video.